of Hartford and Stamford. She is president of and CEO of CMIT Solutions of Hartford and Stamford, providing technical support and monitoring and preventing solutions before they occur. For 3 years in a row, she has received Woman of the Channel Award and has co-authored I Just Want My Computer to Work. She's a graduate of Hofstra University. Linda, it's all yours.
Well, thank you very, very much, Ruth. And it's a pleasure to be able to address the greater SCORE group. I have over the years absolutely enjoyed being able to be coached by several different SCORE members. And so Ruth and I were just talking before this that I'm now in business 16 years, and my very first experience with SCORE was even before I started CMIT Solutions. And the very first question and series of meetings that I had was having to be able to justify being able to join a franchise in order to be able to do an IT services company. I was challenged with the fact that, hey, you've got a technology background, so why in the world spend all this money on a franchise? 16 years later, I'd say this is probably the only way in order to be able to keep up with technology. So a little bit about CMIT. We are a national IT service organization that is structured as a franchise, and we right now have about 240 different offices across the United States, and this really gives us an ability to be able to really tap into the small, mid-sized business market, which is what we really focus exclusively on, and being able to know exactly what's happening in terms of cyber threats, productivities, what types of tools and technologies are being adopted by small business. And I'd have to say that I am absolutely proud and happy every day to be working for small businesses and being a small business myself. As Ruth mentioned, I'm the owner and founder of both CMIT Solutions in Stamford and Hartford. So we're really running that entire gambit. I also do participate internally in CMIT in a security working group. This is a group of about 6 people that are really leading, the conversations in the greater CMIT network about what we need to be focusing in on the technology stack. Where are the real threats? We know that there's, cyber and security issues all over the place, but what we focus on are what are the ones that we really need to be able to worry about. And so when Ruth was speaking to me, I'm like, mobile devices. Mobile devices are now then, yet another area that we need to be able to focus more and more on because they're just increasingly literally an appendage of our arms, whether that's your smartphone, whether it's a tablet, whether it's an iPad, whether it's your laptop. These are all devices that are now moving throughout our lives. And so as we move along, these devices are moving with us. So we're going to talk today about mobile device security. And whether it's mobile devices or devices that are, hardwired or, disconnected wireless, the way that we've come to be able to help people understand where you need to be focusing on when it comes to security is that it's not just about being able to have a security solution, but it's about being able to have layers of security. And so we now talk in terms of a security stack, just as in the past we've talked about a technology stack. So that stack are all the different pieces of hardware, software, cloud solutions, and knowledge that you need in order to be able to have all of this technology provide you productivity and help to be able to operate your business and transport your business and our lives. I mean, we see that technology is incorporated into our homes on an increasing basis to be able to provide us a lot of different conveniences and security. So the three layers that we are always looking at is what is the device that you're actually working on? And a device is simply a generic word for whatever kind of computing thing that you're interacting with. It's got some kind of a keyboard, it's got a voice control, it may be a laptop, a mobile phone, you know, an iPad, you know, a desktop, but it is the piece of hardware that you are actually interacting with. And so, you know, we're going to talk about what is the types of security that you need to be focusing on for that device. The next connection area that we want to look at is how are you connecting and what are you connecting to in terms of the internet? 9 times out of 10 these days, you're using that mobile device in order to be able to, you know, connect with all of the riches and evils that are out inside of what I call the world wild web, because it really is. It is a unregulated to a very large degree. It's a free-for-all. Everybody is out there, and so where you are traveling and what you are interacting with becomes something that we need to be able to worry for. So again, 3 layers: your device, how your connection point to the internet, and then the internet, which is a wild place, and we need to be able to take a look at that. So a little bit about the kind of what's happening from a threat standpoint. I have never in all my years seen the number and the amount of change when it comes to the different kinds of ways that cyber criminals are getting a hold of our information. I don't think a day goes by any longer where we don't see some kind of a breach occurring. The industry, as it's called now, is estimated to be about $4 trillion on a global basis. It is making more money, and there's more money going on there than any of the drug cartels, and it is the largest way that criminal funds are being done. Between the rise of cryptocurrency, the non-regulation from one country to another, and sadly, the lack of maintenance that is done on a lot of computer equipment, this has created an absolute ripe environment for criminals to be able to go there. I was recently at an industry show about 2 months ago, where a CEO of a great company called Huntress, which is a security company, kind of flipped the dialogue and said, hey, I'm going to spend 30 minutes convincing you who are all IT professionals, why you should go into business, not being a managed services provider, an IT provider, but why it's so easy and so lucrative in order to become a cyber criminal. And over the course of 30 minutes, proceeded to be able to show us that the industry is now to a point where you basically can buy cyber, hacking tools in kits that start at a couple $100s. There are now people that basically do lead generation in cyber warfare, where all they have to be able to do is find a way into a piece of equipment, into an account, get somebody's username and password. They don't have to know how to be able to do these things and use them. They just give the lead off to somebody else. They get a percentage of the action, and that other company will now take that and be able to exploit that and be able to, and oftentimes be able to launch ransomware, which is being able to encrypt your information and steal your information and then hold it ransom. Email is one of our biggest threats, so we'll be talking a little bit about that. But what is up on the screen here are, some of the latest things that we have to be able to look at from a cyber perspective. We need to increasingly operate assuming that there is not somebody, that there already is somebody inside of our networks. Passwords, proper password management, and password management is simply, you need to make them long and strong. They need to be different from every single account. They can't be a derivation from one to the other. And so that means that you no longer can hold them in your head. Then the question comes down, where are you going to store them? So you need to be able to store them into a secure location. And where are those secure locations? And we'll be talking a little bit about that. The internet and certainly cloud and computing technology has provided an absolute, nearly limitless amount of possibilities of how we can operate. Certainly during COVID, we saw that we are able to continue to be able to conduct our businesses and many of our daily personal functions through the use of cloud technology. And the cloud, is just that really nebulous area where all of the different network connections are able to come together and information is exchanged. It is, a super highway. It is the fabric. A lot of times we think about it, it's kind of like air. But we talk about it because of clouds, because they're actually each individual clouds. So there's a Microsoft cloud and an Apple cloud and a Verizon cloud and an Amazon cloud. And so that's where those are things that are big data centers in essence. And so very simply, another way to be able to put the cloud is it's somebody else's hard drive. It's another storage location. It's another computing location. Email, by far the largest entry point for all things that are kind of evil, whether that's email on your phone, whether it's email on your desktop. People are increasingly sending you links, giving you attachments, and that becomes the leading way to be able to get in. Multi-factor authentication, two-factor authentication. Simply put, it's something else besides a password that you have to enter in order or push or pull in order to be able to say, I am who I profess to be. I am the device that I profess to be. Even that these days is no longer an absolute guarantee for things, but it does get us pretty far. So hopefully that's giving you some perspective of what we call the threat landscape is like. It is getting, they continue to be able to come new and creative on a constant basis. And as IT service providers and what we consider ourselves people that are in the cyber resilience business, our job is to be able to help protect companies and be able to do that in an affordable way. And a lot of this is now education. So I commend all of you that are listening to this because education is the first step in being able to combat this and be able to know how to be able to leverage the positive things that are here and do so, effectively. So we're going to be running through probably, I think it's almost like 17 or 18 different overall items. And different things. And we're going to do this in a way that works through those three layers. So we're going to start at your device. And these are, the top 15 tips of being able to do this. And at the end, I've also provided some resources so that you can go in and learn about these things more in detail and learn how to be able to do them on your actual devices. So tip number one, spend time being able to understand that settings icon that is on your phone, on your computer, on your mobile phone. Many people say, oh, all I know how to be able to do with my phone is open it, make a call. I challenge you that in purchasing a phone and purchasing a piece of technology, you are now a responsible party and you become a player in everything that is going on here. And so just like being able to drive a car bears a responsibility to be able to make sure that you know the rules of the road, that you know how to be able to operate in a safe way. Once you purchase and are using a piece of technology, you are also responsible for its use and how you're using it. So it does mean that you're going to need to be able to spend time being able to investigate, listening to YouTube videos, talking with other people to be able to say, hey, I need to understand these things. I need to understand it well enough, not only in order to use that mobile device, but also to be able to know how to secure it. So we're going to start from the outside and work our way in. So the first thing you do when you pick up any type of a device, hopefully, is there needs to be some way to be able to say not just anybody can enter this, but only I can enter this. And so you want to be able to mandate that there is, at a very least, a PIN number, at the very best, facial recognition or a fingerprint as a way of being able to access that phone. I say face and fingerprint because those are very, very difficult to be able to duplicate. And that technology continues, and biometrics continues to be the leading way that we're looking at being able to say, yes, absolutely, this is you. A PIN number is convenient, also can be used, but somebody can see it, somebody can guess it, as the same thing with the swipe. But at the very minimum, your device needs to be able to have one of those, or a password if it's your laptop, in being able to give access to that so that only people that are authorized are able to do that. Next one is to be able to remember to set that auto lock. The phone should auto lock so that if when it is idle or that laptop is not attended, that it is locked. Locking it not only prevents it from being used by somebody physically that may come up to it, but that lock also, in a lot of times, prevents things from running in the background that you don't want them to be running. And so it is another way to be able to make sure. So just like when you leave your house, you close the door, when you're not using your device, you need to be able to close and lock that device. Tip number 4, only download your applications, and that includes programs, software, pictures, videos from trusted locations. Apps, the Google Store, your Play Store, your Apple Tune Store. Make sure that when you're downloading anything from the internet, that it's coming from a reliable source. There are a lot of tricksters out there that are looking to be able to catch you being able to do some kind of a search, making it look real good, and be able to trick you into being able to download it. And these downloads are done, and basically the phone or the mobile device is saying, you're giving me permission to do this because you requested this to be done. So of course I'm going to let you install that thing. And so there are no different checks. The focus of our conversation now brings us to the 5th item, and that is that we're talking about mobile devices. Mobile devices are obviously mobile, so they can depart from you, they can be separated from you, they can be stolen, but because of the GPS technology and that location item, we highly recommend that you have a Find My device. Yes, it's only good for about 200 yards, but it gives you the ability to be able to track that phone, especially if it's got sensitive information on it. You at least have some ability to be able to find out where it is and who may be using it. More on devices. So now that you've gotten into your device, let's talk a little bit about what's on the device from a data perspective. Your phone has encrypted and possibly unencrypted locations for your data. And so encryption means that it is secured with an algorithm that prevents it from being read by somebody else. It uses a key, which is often part of your biometric, your PIN, your passwords, in order to be able to make sure that even if somebody removed that piece of storage from your phone and put it into some other kind of a reader, that it couldn't be read. But how many of you actually know whether or not your phone is operating with encryption? If it's not encrypted, all I have to be able to do is pull out maybe a memory card that's out of there, or I can just break open the phone and I can grab that piece of memory, slip it into another device, and I'm going to be able to read everything that is on that mobile device. Now, if it's encrypted, it means that I need a key in order to be able to get in there. So you want to be able to really understand how your phone is set up and being able to make sure that. Leading to that is the next area. many phones, especially Android phones, have two kinds of storage: core storage that came with the actual phone, and auxiliary storage, or an additional, SIM chip or USB chip that you are able to insert into the phone at a very inexpensive way to be able to do that. A very common technique that will happen, especially with your Android or your non-iPhones, non-Apple devices, is that a thief will just simply pull that chip right out of there. And again, they're able to get access to a whole lot of information without even having to be able to do your PIN, your swipe, your phone, your face, or your fingerprint. iPhones are sold, and this is one of the reasons. If you want, 64 gig on your iPhone or 64 gig on your iPad, there isn't an ability to be able to add that auxiliary storage, but you still have to be able to make sure that core storage is encrypted. So now that you've got information that's on your phone and hopefully secure, one of the common things that we do is we sync our data from our mobile device to something in the cloud. We put it onto our Google Drive, and so Google is a cloud in the, it is another data center. So that means that there is a copy of your data that's on your phone, and it's being synchronized out to the Google Cloud. And it may be Dropbox, it may be Microsoft, it may be iCloud. All of these places are different areas. So now you have to say to yourself, is that area secure? If you've got a free account, 9 times out of 10, that's not a really secure location. You open up a Google account and put yourself into a G Drive. All it takes is somebody being able to guess your password, and there are password hacks that can utilities where we can hack through a password very quickly, and all of a sudden they have your storage. So you want, especially if you have sensitive information like driver's license, checking account number, your financials, your social security number, you want to be able to make sure that those are also in secure locations and that those locations are encrypted. You're going to need to be able to ask some questions. Microsoft and its entire 365 suite, if you pay for your subscription, that data is automatically encrypted in transit as well as at rest. And that's one of the reasons that Microsoft has made such a very large name for itself, is that it's very, very clear that as part of that being that business community, even a Microsoft employee is not able to read your data because it is encrypted at rest unless they are authorized to be able to do so. Next in the line is sensitive information. So it gets, I put this up here because it gets hard. You've got all of this information. You now have pictures, you have files, you have recipes, you've got stuff that is syncing all over the place. But at the end of the day, do you really care if somebody has your potato salad recipe? Probably not. And so you may stick that inside of a Dropbox because it's convenient. And so another area I would challenge you on is being able to start distinguishing between sensitive data and data that you really don't care about. And making sure that that sensitive data is you reduce the number of places that you're putting it in and making sure that it does have all of the different locks. So you don't want to be able to put your credit card in an email. That is not a safe location. Nor it actually goes across the internet, clear text, and anybody can really grab it with a little bit of technology understanding. So that sensitive information you want to be able to keep in a limited place. Again, think about the house technology. Your prized possessions are not scattered all around your house. Your prized possessions are put into maybe a small firebox inside of an important jewelry box. It's hidden. And so you want to be able to apply that same kind of mentality to your sensitive data. Next on the line, and the last one in terms of items about data location and storage, is backing it up. You may have heard there talk about 3-2-1. There needs to be 3 copies of your data in 2 locations to be able to make sure that you can always retrieve them. So there needs to be on-site and off-site, because we know physically, something may happen to your home. So if all you're doing is putting a USB drive into your laptop and copying all the information, and something happens to your home, a fire, a flood, wind damage, these are just, you're now going to be out of luck on all of this. So phones and mobile devices also need to be backed up. Many mobile carriers offer the ability to be able to do this. And there's a number of different utilities. And here too is where you can say, okay, here's the information I really care about. My financial account numbers, my passwords. Oh, my pictures. My pictures are really, really precious. How many times have you heard that somebody has experienced a loss of their phone or loss of a laptop, and all of a sudden they have lost all of their pictures? So, think about what exactly is on there and making sure that you've got a proper backup for it. So that finishes up hints and tips about your actual different device. Actually, there's 2 more to be able to protect them fully. Some people, in an effort to be able to get less expensive devices, end up buying what are called jailbroken, or from third-party markets. And this is where a phone may have been stolen, or they want to be able to simply get the new upgrade without being able to do it, and some clever person goes in and be able to rootkit or jailbreak that phone. This is most definitely not a secure type of a device to be working on. Once it goes through that kind of a process, it is never going to be able to be secure. So you definitely don't want to be operating with a phone or a mobile device that somebody has broken into against the licensing. And lastly, you want to be able to make sure that your updates are running. Frequently, you will see getting your operating system, update your device. You want to be able to run those immediately. Oftentimes, threats are found, and it will take, especially the mobile carriers of Verizon and AT&T and T-Mobile and Sprint, it will often take them 30 to 60 days to be able to get that update into their environments and then to be able to push it down to your phone. So as soon as you see it, you've already been vulnerable for a period of time. So you don't want to be able to add to that length of time, but wanting to be able to make sure that those are being run on very much a regular basis. I would say within 24 hours is what we recommend things being able to be updated on. Remember that if you do have any questions, feel free to be able to drop them into the chat or the Q&A, and I will look to be able to answer those towards the end of the presentation. So now we're going to talk about being out and about with your device. You're out at the store, you're in the car, you're at lots of different places. So you're using your device, but it is constantly interacting and also needs to be charged. So a couple hints here. One of the common ways that we've seen cybercrime happen is by, you think you're innocently plugging into a charging station at some kind of a convenience area, an airport or a coffee shop. And in actuality, that is giving a complete connection to your phone. And unbeknownst to you, somebody has very, slyly been able to replace or make it look like there's a charging station there. It'll give you a charge. But now what it's going to do is it's going to directly connect out to your phone, bypassing all kinds of different locks and swipes, and be able to get a complete copy of all of your data, or inject new malicious types of malicious code onto there. So if you need to be able to charge your phone, make sure that you're walking around with your very own brick and your very own charging card. Public Wi-Fi's, hotspots, and this even goes to your home. Do you know if your home's Wi-Fi is really secure? make sure that that home Wi-Fi was set up by a professional and is not something that anybody can hack into, especially if you're in a populated kind of an area and you bring up and you can see everybody else's Wi-Fi signal. Know that all of those other signals could also be attacking your network. So you want to be able to make sure that you also have not only a long password for your home's Wi-Fi, but that that Wi-Fi device has been set up to operate in a secure manner. And oftentimes that does take being able to get somebody that's got some know-how in terms of some networking technology. Public hotspots, airports especially, but your coffee shops are also big, big areas for cybercrime to be able to happen. There are things called packet sniffers, and I've seen even one of my folks be able to put a packet sniffer into a network and retrieve out to me an entire voice conversation that somebody was happening. Yes, not only is data going through the internet connections, but our conversations are also going through the internet. It's no longer a separate network. And literally, you can pull these packets through these packet sniffers out and be able to listen, record, and be able to transcribe everything that's happening in there. You will sometimes go to be able to, attach yourself to a hotspot because you need an internet connection. Oh, and it's the cable Wi-Fi or the Optimum or the AT&T. All looks very innocent. Well, it may very well be a hacker that is sitting there, within quarter mile, could even be a half mile away, that has put up some kind of a Wi-Fi signal, just waiting for somebody to be able to step in there and be able to say and offer up their entire phone and mobile device and the contents there. So avoid public hotspots. And if you are on them, do not connect to any kind of area where you've got sensitive information. Wait until you are able to connect to a known Wi-Fi connection in order to be able to do that sensitive information. If, however, you do operate, as frankly I do, regularly with sensitive information and that type of thing, and I need to be out in the wild, you can purchase a software VPN. And what VPN stands for is a virtual private network. So virtual meaning that I can make it up based on software. I don't need hardware for it. Private, so it's just between me and another connection that I'm making, and network because it is a kind of a computer network. There are some very good, very small priced and inexpensive software VPN solutions that will allow you to be able to securely use your mobile device at a hotel, at an Airbnb, and even if you need to at an overall airport. Mobile networks have been considered fairly secure, although that is now changing as well, as we're seeing more and more cyber criminals being able to operate from inside of cellular networks as well. So remember, if you're using sensitive information, know that you need a known and secure connection to be able to operate from, and a VPN can be a way to be able to do that. Okay, so we had started with our device and different security around the device. We now talked about how that device is connecting, whether that's with a hardwire, but now since we're talking mobile, it's really through Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, either at your home or in the public area or at a vacation home. So now your device starts interacting with everything that's in the internet. So as we've talked about, emails, and we're all on emails and texts. This is a high, usage area for our mobile devices, and emails represent 90% of the way that malicious code is being delivered. People read it, open it, click on it, open up the attachment, get tricked into being able to go someplace. You think you're logging on to your Google account or your Facebook account, but in actuality, you're logging on to somebody else's website, a cyber criminal that is now taking that ID and password and being able to rob it from you to be able to use it for all of your accounts. HTTP, HTTPS. In your browser, the lock or the unlock. Used to be that if you looked at your browser and you saw the little lock there, you'd say, nope, this is an absolutely safe site. Well, cyber criminals have also started to be able to figure that out. So they will put up these types of websites and direct you to it. And all they've done is gone and buy a certificate, which you can buy for about $250. And wham, now they're operating on a website that has HTTPS. So just because it has that little lock symbol, do not assume that it really is a secure site. So you're going to want to be very careful to be able to make sure that you've gone to a known URL, as it's called, and that you're working from that secure connection. A secure connection can also make sure that you are not being, that there's not an impersonator and driving you to another area. A lot of people use autofill as a convenience to be able, so that you don't have to type in the password, or you don't have to be able to type in your credit card number or be able to do these things. This is something you want to be able to avoid. Turn them off. By allowing that autofill, it means that whatever that information is that's being saved is being added onto your mobile device, and very often in an unsecure location. So turn off autofill on your browsers and whenever prompted on your phone. Passwords. Many people have heard me, kind of constantly have the mantra for password and password management. They first of all need to be long and strong. Think in terms of phrases so that you could remember it, or at least it's easier to be able to type out than something that is, completely cryptic. Don't reuse them from account to account. Every password you have needs to be unique, and it cannot be like a derivation. You say, okay, I'm going to use, a word plus a number. Oh, and then I'm going to add one over here. I'm going to add one over here. Oh, so anybody that ever tells me that they remember their passwords, okay, it's not going to take too much for an algorithm to be able to catch one of your passwords that appears in one of those daily breaches and be able to just whip through a couple different combinations, and now they're going to be able to get into your account. We recently had a client who was using his Online account to be his second authentication. So meaning that he would type in his username and password, and then it would send a code to his Online account. And that's the way that he would get into this very important account, which happened to be his Venmo account, bank account. And sure enough, he didn't bother to be able to put a second factor of authentication onto that Online account. And sure enough, a hacker was able to get into that account, now retrieve a code from his Venmo account, and he ended up with the theft from that overall area. So all of our passwords and even now our cell phone numbers become intertwined. So really the only place for your passwords these days becomes a password vault. LastPass, Dashlane, 1Pass, these are all names of some really great password vaults. This way you only have to remember one password, long and strong. Make sure that you have that second factor of authentication, and I would recommend using an app, not having a text message be able to be texted out to your phone. As a way of being able to do them. So password management, password hygiene, as I call it. This would alone save an awful lot of different cybercrime that is happening there. So a couple last hints. Separating work and personal. We all want to be able to use the convenience and the power of the internet. And I've often spoken about the fact that, at least at my house, I find it incredible that any question that I have, I can simply enter a few words into a search and I can get answered. There is an absolute richness to the internet and the amount of information that we have at our fingertips. But we need to be able to think in terms of, what are we doing for work? What are we doing on a personal basis? And in both of those areas, sensitive information versus, okay, I'm just, out there surfing and shopping. So you want to be able to separate those personas, a work email and a personal email, a work computer and a personal computer, a work profile or account on Google and a personal one. There's lots of different ways of simply being able to set up two of these things so that you now have to be able to go to a safe room, a safe account, a safe device in order to be able to do those things that are more sensitive. If you're looking to be able to pick up the latest and greatest, recipe on potato salad, you don't have to be operating from a secure item, and you can, there be a little bit more lax in terms of your security and your vigilance. So, and then lastly, use videos and hire an IT company. If you are running a small business, it can very much get very quick to be able to get overwhelmed and inundated by all of these different things that you have to be able to do in order to be able to leverage that technology, whether it's security, whether it's backup, whether it's being able to get technical support and being able to know that you've got somebody trusted to be able to do so. So in addition to being able to have an accountant and a lawyer and a score coach, you should have an IT go-to to be able to go to for all things that are IT and technology related. I am at this point going to just wrap up with this one last slide. These are a couple great resources. So CMIT puts out a weekly quick tips. And so there's a wonderful article that kind of became the motivation for this webinar, How Safe is Your Smartphone? And then there is some really, really great digestible information in this link from Identity Force and another one from Tripwire. Beyond that, I would say YouTube and being able to really spend some time with your phone to be able to get different settings. I've got a couple of questions that have come in. So right now I'm going to go ahead and respond to those. Question came in from Jan. Thank you very much, Jan. How safe is Facebook Messenger, text, phone, and video? My opinion on that is that no, it is not safe. The motivation behind Facebook is for advertising purposes. I think we've seen enough different kind of news stories about what their motivations are. And I think I've never heard that they're really saying that they are a security first company. I think Facebook Messenger can be great for casual conversations, but as my mother sometimes said, don't say something out in public that you wouldn't want put onto the front page of the Wall Street Journal. I would say to you that keep your conversations in Facebook to be the very benign conversations, and anything that's sensitive, find another way of being able to communicate that information. Another question came in from Ginny. Thank you, Ginny. Hi, Linda. Great info as always. My Dashlane Premium provides the autofill function. Do you know if that is not secure? Should I turn it off? Ginny, you can rest assured that yes, Dashlane and being able to operate inside of that password vault area, you can safely use that for autofill. So what Dashlane is doing is, okay, you've got this vault, you've now put your credit card information inside of there. And so as long you now have a long and strong, so you're opening up your vault. So think about that like you're going into a bank vault, and they've given you the safety deposit box. Now, if you want to be able to take a copy of something, or take a copy of it, and that's essentially what you're doing with Dashlane and a password vault. It's a copy and a paste. So you're pasting it into a browser, into a field. As long as you are not saying, oh, remember that, then there is, that is safe for use. Now, keep in mind, though, that you also need to be able to have, antivirus or some type of security running on that mobile device, because even with an autofill, it's sitting there in memory, and all based on the programs, it could be written to disk, or there could be something actually harvesting it from memory. So you can use it on a safe basis, but that does not mean that you are absolved from making sure that the device that yourself is using is actually secure and doesn't have any malicious code. Next question came in from an anonymous attendee. What are your thoughts on using Signal for text and calls? Anything that has higher security? Similarly, your thoughts on Google Voice. Voice over Internet Protocol, which is what VoIP stands for, increasingly is a way that our phone calls are passing through the internet, just like we're talking right now. The key becomes the service that you're using and whether or not that service is communicating information in an encrypted form. My general rule of thumb is if it's free, figure it's not secure. If you're paying for it, ask some questions. I don't know particularly about Google Voice as to whether or not it does have a secure option. I do know that the paid for Zoom connection that we're talking on is done on an encrypted connection, as well as the Microsoft Teams connections. GoToMeeting, those are also done. And then, of course, if you're looking at voice over IP providers, I know that Jive, which is the one that we do a lot of work with, is absolutely safe. But, if you're looking at your major players like a Ring Central, like an 8x8, you will also find versions of there that are providing safe and secure encrypted information. Oftentimes, we are now seeing that you are having to be able to pay a premium price point for that, but more and more organizations are becoming aware and asking questions about encrypted security, even with voice calls. If it's a highly sensitive really, really confidential kind of a conversation, you probably want to be able to find a way to be able to do that in person, or really make sure that you're doing it on an encrypted connection. Now going over to the chat, let me catch up on a few questions that came in on that as well. A question came in from Michael. Thank you, Michael. Is it just non-iPhones that have the storage risk? And so I would say yes. To my knowledge, there is not an Apple iPhone or iPad that you can put auxiliary storage into. However, if you were to be able to connect like a thumb drive to it, that would be considered auxiliary storage, and that thumb drive is likely not encrypted. So, kind of keep that in mind. Next question. Let me just scroll down here a moment. Accounting, this came also in from Michael, accounting for all potential mobile vulnerabilities. If we're about to buy a new smartphone, which ones would be most secure by your standards? Any specific models from particular brands that you would be helpful to know? Generally, iPhones are by default easier, are more secure because they have less number of vulnerabilities. They have also represent less of the market share. However, they have over the years grown to a point where there are vulnerabilities there as well. So we do need to be able to start dealing with our Apple products as they are. I personally use an Android device, and that's because there are certain applications, apps that I use that are not offered on the iPad, on the Apple framework, and my Android device is absolutely secured. Between following the steps that I've outlined here, being able to work with a reputable carrier, my carrier is Verizon, I do feel very, very comfortable in being able to have that level of security on my Android phone. But I would generally say that if you are working on an Android device, you do need to be a little bit more vigilant, and there's just more settings that you're able to do. Question came in from Marie. Can you make suggestions for a secure VPN service? Windscribe, WINDSCRIBE. They have an individual VPN service. I think it goes for, I don't know, like $10 a month. It was recommended to me by one of my professional contacts who found out that the NSA uses that as their secure VPN technology. So I said, yeah, that's really good. So I like their service. It's also fast, which with some of the software VPN solutions, they only give you a pretty low connection, but we generally have timed it out at about a 10 gig connection. And I haven't, had any performance problems while operating on that. Question come in from Frank. We've been told that Apple is more secure than other companies. True or false? I would say that Apple today has less vulnerabilities. Apple does have very strict guidelines when you are introducing an app to their Apple store that it has to be able to go through. And then Apple devices by default will immediately call to apple.com as opposed to getting tricked. So again, I think predominantly Apple devices have less security vulnerabilities, but that does not mean that they are impenetrable and that you don't have to be able to apply all of the other safeguards as well. I actually, one of our clients handed me a phone, said, hey, I see something kind of weird happening on my phone here. And as we looked at it, it turns out that he had been tricked, probably through some prompts and things like that, to being able to have somebody else create an additional profile on his iPhone. And every single communication he was sending out of his iPhone, both email and text, was being blind copied and copied to a third party that was obviously very unauthorized. So that just goes to be able to prove that even Apple devices can end up with these types of vulnerabilities. So we've got time for just a few more questions. I've got a question here from Susan. Do all password manager apps have a fee? Is it worth to use a free one or one that's more advisable for a pay one? I wholeheartedly feel that you do need to be able to pay for one in order to be able to get those benefits. LastPass is one of the ones that we use quite a bit, and I believe they have a family subscription, which is going to cost you about $40 per month, per year. And so it's very, very affordable. So hard to be able to argue that, that's not a good way. Bill asked me whether I'm familiar with VPN Unlimited. I am not, but I'll be writing that down and being able to check that out. Bill, if you've had a positive or negative experience with them or want to send me an email as a follow-up, you can reach me at Linda@CMIT Stamford, and I'd be happy to be able to chat with you about it. And last question that came in, would you agree that iPhone 11 Pro or lower would be best because it doesn't have 5G vulnerabilities? That's a whole nother big topic. I'm going to very truthfully say that I am not up to speed on the current state of whatever vulnerabilities are on a 5G perspective. What I can tell you is that the 5G spectrum has licensed and unlicensed frequencies. The licensed ones, which are going out to the big carriers, your Verizon, your T-Mobile, I do feel, I am not aware of any vulnerabilities that are greater than any of the a 2.4 or the older generations. There is a 5G spectrum that is being used by some IoT devices, and there is a whole kind of a movement called the Internet of Things network. That is a network that I would not feel comfortable at being able to operate on.
Linda, I think we're getting somewhat close to noon. What do you have for time?
I've got 12:55.
Okay, well, let's just see. These have been some wonderful questions, and I do want to remind people, as I will be, that you can look at the rerun of this to pick up anything that you may not have absorbed, because there's just an ocean of questions and answers here. Now, I think you should, any last questions that you have, put on your Q&A, because chat does not carry over to the repeat. Let's just take a look and see if there are any new ones on chat that you haven't answered. I don't think so.
A couple more came in on the Q&A. I heard Bitwarren is the best from an IT professional for VPN. I'll have to take that as an action item. There's a lot of different players out there. I do know, as I said, we did due diligence on Windscribe, and somebody had asked whether the NSA is using that. I said it came to me as a recommendation by someone using at the NSA that they do use it. And the last question was, I was thinking of handling my Zoom ID for audio and video calls. They provide that service now, or calls made through that medium. Or okay, that I would say give Zoom support a call, check with your plan, and ask them the questions in terms of overall security. I know that Zoom has been doing a lot of work because they do want to be seen as a secure platform.
I wish we had time for some more questions, but I think they could go on all afternoon. It's been a very wide awake audience. So remember, you can see this again. Also, the couple of references that Linda indicated at the end of her presentation are probably some good places to get additional information. So just a reminder, we're very, very happy that so many people joined us today. We have a large group of people. If you didn't get your question answered, I'm sorry. Perhaps Linda will be available, but she's not going to be here any longer at the moment. So check again with the rerun, and I think you'll find lots of areas that will maybe touch on some of your questions. I hope so. I would like to thank you all for coming in. Remember that SCORE services are available. We have another workshop coming in the next couple of days, one a week from now. And just look at www.score, Fairfield County. I'm thinking of the old one. fairfieldcounty.score.org, and you'll get our website with any questions that you may have. Again, thank you, Linda, very much today. You're a fountain of information, and I've learned some things that I want to investigate further, because this is a field that is quite remote for me. Thank you again. Rewatch, and everyone stay well and have a wonderful day. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you all for taking the time and investing in yourselves and becoming more safe.